everyone, and welcome to our special live edition of the World of Linguistics Today. My name is Lucille Barber, and joining us tonight live from Arizona State University is Professor Noam Chomsky. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Lucille. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Professor Noam Chomsky is one of the best-known linguists in the world. He's been that for the last 20 years or so, and his influence goes well beyond linguistics. As a professor, author who has written several books, and holds a PhD in linguistics, Professor Chomsky is the most cited living intellectual and part of the top 10 most quoted people of all time. Also, Chomsky's ideas are highly influenced by interest in logic and mathematics. But we have a couple of questions for you this evening, Professor, and then we'll also do a little Q&A with some of our students that are joining us here this evening.
Sounds great. I'm ready.
I know you've mentioned several times in your career that language learning is motivated by an internal capacity to acquire language. That as humans, we have the ability to learn and analyze linguistic information. Language isn't learned how other things are learned. And you say linguistics is not a behavior?
Well, I would say that it has frequently been observed that children acquire both concepts and language with amazing facility and speed, despite the paucity or even absence of meaningful evidence and instruction in their early years. The inference to the conclusion that much of what they acquire must be innate is known as the argument from the poverty of the stimulus. Specifying precisely what children acquire and how they acquire it are aspects of what I called in LSLT, Logical Structure of Linguistic Theory, the fundamental problem of linguistics.
Thank you. And tell us how you broke the dominant school of thought in linguistics, that structural approach. Can you talk about the role that Leonard Bloomfield played with your book that you wrote back in 1950, The Syntactic Structures, and how it began your change with Bloomfieldian consensus?
Absolutely. Well, Bloomfield, first of all, is one of the best-known American linguists. He played a very big part in the 20th century. His approach was more along the lines of describing and classifying sounds and morphemes. He developed what is called Bloomfieldian linguistics. His principles developed from phonology, morphology, and other more abstract units, and he basically studied semantics.
Thank you. Well, we have to take a small break now, but when we do return, we will have a couple of students ask Professor Chomsky some questions so that he can share his view on what our students have to ask tonight. So please stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the World of Linguistics. We are still here with Mr. Noam Chomsky, and we're going to take a couple of questions from the audience. So, first question that we have. Hi, my name's Sally Beckwith. Can you talk about verbal behavior and some of its consequences?
Sure. I define verbal behavior as learned behavior that has characteristic consequences delivered through the learned behavior of others. This makes for a view of communicative behaviors much larger than usually addressed by linguists. There are some approaches that focus on the circumstances in which language was used. For example, asking for water was functionally a different response than labeling something as water, responding to someone asking for water, etc.
Well, those are all the questions that we have for you this evening, Professor Noam Chomsky. Thank you again for joining us here tonight, and we wish to see you back here again soon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
And everybody, all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us this evening in another edition of Linguistics in the World Today. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you all next week.